Hi, Kathleen Guire here. Welcome to Trauma Informed Parenting. I've been doing a series called Trauma Informed Parenting 101. And if you missed any of the videos, I would suggest you go back and watch them. I started with the intro with a blueprint of what we need to know, how to start our trauma informed education, and why we need to do that. So if you missed that one, I would suggest you go back and watch it. But I'm going to start with the blueprint again. So if you are parenting a child who has a neurodiversity or a capital letter syndrome, like I like to call them, FASD, ADHD, SPD, ASD, GAD, all the letters, or a child with a trauma history, then we need a trauma-informed education, right? We need to know where to start. If you're just getting on TikTok or Instagram, not that I'm saying not to do that, there's a lot of good information out there, but you might be like, I really need to have a blueprint. How do I start? Where do I start? So this is where you should start. Number one, you need to reframe your beliefs, which I made a whole video on that. And then make sense of and peace with your past, and then learn the science, apply the science, and then we change the behavior, our behavior and our kiddos' behavior. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the science. I want to talk a little bit about the attachment cycle, and this is really important. Now, of course, trauma can begin before a child is born in utero. If there's drugs and alcohol used while the mother is pregnant, so that is a trauma. But after a child is born, then we start going through this attachment cycle, and this is the science. This is what it looks like. So the infant expresses a need through crying, because that's how they express a need. Then the parent meets the need, okay? And then the infant feels secure. They feel like they're connected. They begin to learn that this parent is going to respond to me, and then they feel better. So they have discomfort, they express the need, the parent or caregiver meets the need, and they feel secure and safe. They begin to make those neural connections in their brain, and that's when all those if-then statements begin to connect. Actually, as a tiny infant, we want our kiddos to have that cause and effect thinking, which I'm going to talk about in another video, but we want them to understand, if you have a need, I will meet it. I'm not talking about a want, I'm talking about a need. When the baby is hungry, we feed the baby. When they need their diaper changed, we change their diaper. When they're cold, we swaddle them in the blanket and we wrap them up. But sometimes what happens when a child comes from a traumatic beginning, or they have a capital letter syndrome, or some of those neural connections and that executive function isn't what we think it would be. I don't want to say it's wrong. I'm going to say it's different than what we think it should be. Then this attachment cycle can be broken. And when it's broken, then what we have to do is go back in and repair those breaches. We have to meet the needs where the child is. Now, if you brought a child home through adoption and they had a lot of trauma in their early history, like some of my kiddos did, and even if they're older, like 7 or 8 years old, you have to go back and start completing this attachment cycle. Now, does that mean that you have to rock them and feed them? Sometimes some parents need to do that, but most often you just need to let the child know, I am going to meet your needs through your actions, not through your words, by repeatedly meeting their needs and lowering your expectation when it comes to parenting, when it comes to they're going to behave perfectly because I met their needs. No, that is not how it works. And research shows that it's actually these positive experiences that are going to not only grow the brain as an infant, but heal the brain if there's been trauma, or the child sees the world through a different lens because they have a neurodiversity. And so what do I mean by that? Because not all of our kiddos need exactly the same thing, right? When it comes to needs, not every child needs to go to the birthday party and be in a loud environment. Not every child needs to excel academically. Not every child needs to do every sport. So we have to look at the needs of that particular child according to their bent, their way that they are designed, and meet those needs. So this is just a small, tiny part of the science. Now, if you are a workbook loving sort of person, I have a workbook, Trauma Informed Parenting 101, that you can grab. It has some journaling sections. There are 5 different modules in it, and science is one of the modules where I talk about this a little bit more. And then it also has some note-taking sections. But if you are one of those people who is not only a visual learner, but an auditory learner, and you need to see the video, you need to take notes, I also have a course. It's just a mini course, Trauma Informed Parenting 101. Kind of dip your feet in, get your feet wet, start learning about how trauma affects our kiddos and following that blueprint. And by the way, that blueprint is also the blueprint for my book, How to Have Peace When Your Kids Are in Chaos. Back to the course for a minute. So the course is 5 short modules, and it comes with a workbook. So if you're the type of person who needs the workbook and the videos and to be able to listen to it, then I would suggest that. But even if you don't want to do any of those things, thanks for joining me here today. Bye.